envisioned being a couple of meters underneath the outer layer of the sea, in obscurity neglected caves. Beneath the water the environment is threatening, the tension is extreme, and the dangers are impossible. Agnes Milowka was a fearless cavern scientist and specialized jumper who did more than 1,100 plunges, which is an astonishing accomplishment. She fearlessly went into these profundities, not realizing that her endless soul would convey her to a destiny she would never have envisioned. Agnes Milowka changed the underground world perpetually. She was perhaps the earliest individual to buckle plunge and investigate. Jumpers and pioneers all around the world are as yet motivated by her consistent enthusiasm, valiance, and pivotal work. What she abandoned lives on, from the profound of Tank Cavern to the obscure terrains of Coco Biddy, she shows us that the human soul has no restrictions. Agnes was a legend, yet who is she and what befell her? She was brought into the world in Poland on December 23, RD 1981. She moved to Melbourne with her folks when she was exceptionally youthful, and she went gaga for submerged investigating immediately. Her absolute first time jumping was in 2002 when she did a couple of training plunges at Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia. She got to see a great deal of marine life during these jumps, and it was her absolute first time submerged that she had the idea, this is how I need to manage my life. 14 days after the fact, she pursued a full untamed watercourse, and jumping turned into the main thing in her life. Starting there on toward the beginning of her outing, she was keen on the vivid reefs and fish that lived submerged. However, as her affection developed, so did her inclinations. Wrecks got her consideration, since they were lovely, as well as in light of the fact that they held untold stories and verifiable secrets. She became keen regarding this matter when she saw the disaster area J4 submarine in Victorian waters. She felt charmed and energized the whole way through this venture. Agnes said, this was the best ever. I truly believe should do more wrecks. It was so cool. I truly can't express an adequate number of positive things about it. Throughout the following couple of years, she went from being an excited wok jumper to a sea paleologist, getting her alumni recognition in oceanic prehistoric studies at Flinders College. Agnes turned into a profound jumper, since she needed to find wrecks that were as yet immaculate and flawless, that were concealed in the profundities. To do this, she needed to figure out how to utilize complex devices and unique gases. During these risky excursions, she confided in the Optima rebreather to be with her. Agnes attempted cave jumping without precedent for 2004 when she swam with a gathering at lakes in Mount Gambier. This renowned sinkhole, called Pix, had a sound environment brimming with fish, eels, turtles, and other oceanic creatures that moved nimbly through its shallows. During one jumping trip, Agnes was pursuing a turtle at the outer layer of the water for the sake of entertainment when an unforeseen experience happened. She crossed the edge of the sinkhole without acknowledging it, and all of a unexpected, the sea base vanished underneath her. A tremendous shaft fell 40 m into the ground, leaving a dim shadow over her. Agnes genuinely wanted to go down. Subsequent to seeing one more jumper come up from those profound profundities, I need to go down there. She began cave making a plunge 2005. Since she was unable to keep down her euphoria any longer starting thereon, she experienced passionate feelings for the weird universe of caverns. She cherishes finding obscure ways that no other person has been before. In Florida's Cavern Nation, where she resided for a year, she figured out how to lay lines to get around in the Mazike burrows. She can't get away from the excitement of arriving at places that had never been investigated before. When Agnes returned to Florida, she laid kilometers of line through various cavern frameworks. The main thing she did was associate Peacock Spring to Immersing Spring, which made the framework longer by multiple miles alongside her cavern undertakings in Florida. Agnes thought she was fortunate to have seen the shocking excellence of caverns in Australia, Mexico, and the Bahamas. Among different spots, she turned into a significant figure in Australian cavern investigation due to her outing, she arrived at the back finish of the Coco Biddy Cave, which is the longest cavern in the nation, and set the standard for the most profound female cavern. Make a plunge Australian caverns. Agnes had a unique expertise that made her stand apart among cave jumpers. Since she was so little, she had the option to overcome limitations that most man jumpers would struggle with. She became known as a thrill seeker in the field seed since she was so great at working under close circumstances. She would, some of the time, even accomplish something many refer to as no mounting, which implied agreeing with her tanks off her position, or back and allowing them to show behind her, to taking an alternate technique. She had the option to get around an ever-increasing number of limitations, opening up strange regions that no other person would be able. See, however, Agnes accomplished something other than movement. She utilized her camera to catch the substance of her outings. She imparted her experiences to the world through pictures and recordings she took while she was submerged. Agnes imparted her profound love for plunging to the world. Online 1. Her site, which she utilized as a material, she showed clear photos of her submerged encounters. Her fascinating blog entry gave perusers and investigate the amount she cherished how she managed points, going from investigating plane wrecks to the cautious specialty of cavern stumbles on. Tuesday, December 7, 2010. She told, I have had my reasonable part of issues submerged, for example controller and bike disappointment, a few thousand feet into a cavern suit, and BC expansion issues. At profundity I've been lost, tangled inline, caught in close places. I've been stung by animals and snagged by moray eels. The rundown continues forever. And on she added, none of these have been what I would consider near calamities. They have been minor knocks along the street, and were adequately simple to determine. Commonly talking, as long as you don't overreact, are well ready and have had respectable preparation en route, you ought to have the option to deal with the circumstance. I think the examples are very clear. Don't do moronic stuff. When you do dumb things, ultimately, it appears to be your karma will run out. It wasn't enough for Agnes to simply investigate. She lived her life to the best. Agnes once expressed, I'm not terrified of biting the dust. Anybody anytime can die, so you need to carry on with your life as though tomorrow could be your last day. I love plunging, I'm enthusiastic about it, and I don't think anything will prevent me from doing it. Tragically, there are gambles in each outrageous game. There are threats to me. Those dangers are worth the effort, on the grounds that the prizes are worth the effort. You need to jump securely yet live as though consistently will be your last. Agnes composed a blog entry about their tank cave on her site on Tuesday, November 30, 2010. She said it was an unlikely treasure in South Australia's Mount Gambier region. Cave jumpers love investigating its 23,000-foot labyrinth of sections, which has put it on the map as quite possibly of Australia's longest cavern. Her words were brimming with energy as she composed, at times cave jumpers stress that Tang Cavern will end up being a gigantic disillusionment. After all the fight paving the way to the main plunge. However, even the gold line plunges are very thrilling. Tank Cave is not normal for some other in the Mount Gambier district. It is a genuine jewel, and it is a delight to plunge. The cavern is staggering, and it is moderately shallow with a most extreme profundity, around 65 ft. There's no stream to battle, and the water is perfectly clear. You can't turn out badly. Truly, in her profound blog entry, she expounded on how much she cherished the cavern, yet much to her dismay, that her life would take a terrible turn since it was in that equivalent tank cave that misfortune would happen. Agnes Day on February 27, 2011 started like some other. She was once again at the tank cave in South Australia after an energizing outing that returned her the entire way to Pecan Nin Lakes in 2004, where she originally became keen on jumping. She went on an undertaking into the secretive profundities of Tank Cave with a gathering of 10 cavern jumpers. It was clear what she needed to do. She needed to do Check. Virgin region, which in the realm of cavern plunging, implies going into waters that nobody had at any point been in before that morning. Agnes and her jumping accomplice went into the tank cave prepared for another astonishing excursion. Yet something horrible turned out badly. They went further until they ran over an issue, a little opening that would turn into seeing the most frightening snapshots of their lives. Agnes had proactively put down very nearly 1,000 FT of line on a past outing to the fascinating tank cave, which was an indication of the gigantic number of neglected cave burrows that were ready to be investigated. Agnes had a fantasy that one day this cavern would be more profound than 3,300 FT, which would be no joking matter in the realm of cavern plunging. Agnes said that the tank cave looked like a spiderweb gone off the deep end. The walls and rooftop in the first place are very delicate and soft, which implies that enormous pieces of the rooftop downpour down on you as you breathe out, and the perceivability is immediately decreased to zero contingent upon your size. It could expect you to take one tank off to go through the underlying limitation on that horrible day. Andy Higgins, an individual cavern jumper, and the day guiding aid opened the door to the cavern and set up the stepping stool so the jumpers could get inside. The jumpers went all through the cavern at various times over the course of the morning. One generally remained on dry land close to the mouth to the cavern, while the others went in and out. By early afternoon, 9 of the 10 jumpers were out of the cavern, securely leaving just Agnes behind that day. Agnes wanted to go on one more excursion through an exceptionally restricted path that no other person had at any point experienced. There are no more realities to add to the story right now, rather surmises and hypotheses assume control more than one. Thought is that Agnes split up with her plunge accomplice to overcome this precarious part. Sadly, she was simply ready to traverse the obstruction and couldn't go any further. Agnes attempted to turn around when she understood she was stuck. However, she was unable to move her body. She attempted to leave in reverse, yet the path had become obstructed with soil, making it difficult to see. Agnes at long last ran out of air and suffocated. Another chance is that Agnes got isolated from her companion in the super overflowed burrow while attempting to find her direction through an exceptionally low entry on the opposite side of a limitation, which is a little opening. To traverse this restricted section, she needed to take out one of her chambers and leave it as a reinforcement. She then happened with only one chamber, which is called no mounting. Tragically, when she got back, she got lost, potentially due to sediment in the water, and couldn't find her direction back to the reinforcement chamber. Miserable to say, she ran completely dry and suffocated while Agnes was on the jump. Her accomplice had been standing by serenely. However, the minutes transformed into hours. Things appeared as though they had turned out badly. Agnes had gone into the completely dark cavern and was not generally seen. Her plunge mate at long last needed to rise to the top following 60 minutes. Furthermore, a portion of the jump Higgins, the aid in control, called the water police. It took the hero the entire constantly to find Agnes late that evening. Her body was found in Tank Cave, yet it took salvage groups a couple of days to prepare to appropriately get Agnes back. Specialists didn't think it was feasible to get Agnes' body back until plungers recorded a video way to the hindrance where her body was lying. They chose not to bore through around 50 FD of ground and on second thought depended on gifted jumpers who were certain they could track down her functioning 2x2 with a rule from the entry to the cavern and painstakingly positioned crisis tanks en route. The recovery consumed a huge chunk of time and went flawlessly. A dear companion of Agnes, Dr. Richard Harris, was in the group that attempted to account for police jumps to haul her body out of Tank Cave. Around 16 FDA away from Agnes' body was a reinforcement chamber that actually had 176 bars of usable gas in it. The recuperation tasks required 4 days and included many plunges, frequently with exceptionally low perceivability, until the body could be securely taken out and given To the police, Harris saw Agnes' body lowered in 65 FD of water, around 1800 FD, from the cavern mouth on Wednesday evening. He says she wasn't caught before she passed on it. Appears as though she has remained exceptionally quiet right to the absolute final gasp while she has been attempting to remove herself. He adds, when you are in an exceptionally thin piece of a cavern, perceivability goes to zero rapidly. The Agnes Milowka Dedication Ecological Science Grant helps oppressed schools in the logical regions to pay tribute to Agnes' extraordinary commitments and enduring heritage. She likewise got the investigation grant from the Public Speleological Society Cave Jumping Segment USA. After her demise in May 2011, in Australia, a few land highlights were named after her. The Coalition starship at WS Milowka in Ruby Dull is one illustration of a social and science fiction reference here.